Bringing sanity to our budgeting system at all levels of government is still a tall order. Also, a proper implementation is still some sort of mirage. Chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, Professor Bolaji Owasonye, said 257 projects amounting to 20.138 billion naira were duplicated in the 2021 budget. Meanwhile, the Director General of the Budget Office of the Federation, Ben Akabueze, has disagreed with the ICPC, saying only 185 projects were found to be duplicated in the 2021 budget. But the difference appears to be the same. Or what do you think, Jide? I don't understand.
You see, it's still part of the corruption that we are talking about. If you say, oh, it was 185 and not 257, what exactly are you saying? The ICPC man had established that indeed there were duplication of projects in the budget, and everyone knows why. Everyone knows why these things are happening.
You buy furniture every year.
The whole idea is to be able to access the cash that is meant for that project. That's the whole idea. And he's saying, look, the DG Budget Office is saying that the Budget Office is not responsible for the punishment of those involved in the duplication of these projects, because the staff of the MDAs, military departments and agencies, are not answerable to his office. So what the ICPC needs to do is identify the people behind this. Let's not be talking about how many projects are we talking about here. We've established the crime.
Yes.
And people who willfully...
We're talking to people.
Yes, people willfully will embark on this duplication of projects for the purpose of defrauding their nation. They've got to be identified. If they are working in cahoot with people in the National Assembly, they should also be identified and put on trial. Otherwise, this whole cycle of using the budget to steal money will not end. It will not end. So I think the crime has been established, and I commend the ICPC at least for this due diligence that they have done. It's a lot of money. 20 billion is not chicken. It's not chicken change. But if we are not careful, to end up in the pockets of some individuals.
Yes. I mean, too. I'm always wondering when I see ministry, all these MDs, and you check out their budget for their kitchen, maybe budget for Aso Rock entertainment allowance and everything, and the same thing will come up every year.
Yes, in the early years of the Buhari administration, some of these things were established, including some of these MDAs buying computers every year. They keep buying computers every year.
And generators.
And generators. You ask yourself, is it every year that your computers go bad? But on this specific case, this is one of the things I find very saddening about our country. That is the response of Ben Akabueze to this issue. It sounded, the word is not, it sounded very insensitive to the plight of Nigerians.
I was talking about
do we even have it at all?
It was not about human errors.
So if you are talking about 250 something, and you are giving 150 something,
you are now giving us figures. You are saying 20 billion
are meant to make mistakes.
You are saying 20 billion is 0 point some. I mean, do you know how many health facilities 20 billion can set up?
Yes.
Do you know how many Nigerians
you can sing?
that 20 billion can change their lives completely?
20 billion.
Do you know how many Nigerians are looking for just 200 300,000 naira to buy Okada, to be able to move from one point to the other to
that's
do
the
their
allocation
businesses.
of Kogi State in 5 months.
So when you now talk like this, I begin to feel that completely the country has lost it. Because what Akabueze should be talking about is how to bring these people
Yes.
to
And now to ensure that it doesn't happen
and
again.
ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Yes.
The
Block these
processes
loopholes.
that we will put in place.
How do you begin to say it is only 0 point something percent of the budget? Who cares? It means that if this same set of people steal 20 billion this year, they steal it next year, they steal it throughout their 35 years of being in service, and they are a caucus, not too many. Do you know how much would have gone into their own pockets? And Nigerians are suffering. Do you know what 20 billion can do on a particular road? So some of these things we need to begin to look at how our public officers, how they react to us as Nigerians. We are saying something is wrong. You are saying yes, it is wrong, but you are defending it. It's
I'm sure my producer is trying to get us through Larry Suraj. Is Larry Suraj there?
It's disappointing. That response is quite disappointing. Quite disappointing.
The situation we must try to create is a situation in which human interference in these issues are brought to the barest minimum. Our budget making process, we should try our best to limit the capacity of wayward civil servants to inject all kinds of unwanted stuff into it. Coming out to say that errors will be made, that we are human beings, that is not the issue. That's like calling a deliberate attempt to steal or mislead everyone a human error.
That's what he has done.
Remember some years back,
that's what he has done.
In the budget, in the budget, when the National Assembly were working on the budget, they discovered a ghost school. A ghost school complete with vice principal academic, vice principal admin, the full retinue of staff of a ghost school.
Collecting allocation.
Yes, a ghost school. Now, are you going to say that a ghost school suddenly materialized as a matter of human error? Or by design? It was a bit by design. You see, the people that is calling their activities an error, he does not know them. He does not know them.
That is deliberate.
Wherever they are, they will be laughing. That, oh, okay, he has defended us. He said this, that it's an error. These people, this is what they've been doing for years. Look at, that's why I always pray for Yaradua. Yaradua, when Yaradua came up with his budget and they tinkered with it at the level of National Assembly, said, no, this is not my budget.
I can't recognize it.
Yes, this is not my budget. You know? And that was how, for the first time, we punished, during his time, we punished people for even spending unspent funds. That is money appropriated in the budget that was not spent.
That should be
there was a tradition of spending that money instead of returning it to the treasury.
When the money comes,
we just share it among the boys.
That's why
we carry everybody along, we share it.
Stupendous.
And the minister said, no, that I will not get involved. You can share my own. They allocated to the minister. And the minister said, no, I do not. I
don't want this.
I don't want it. But they ended up splitting what the Yorubas call akwele, sharing what was meant for the minister on top of everybody. This is what we do. The man in the budget office is been in Abuja for some time now. By now, he should be aware of.
In Lagos.
Yes. By now, he should be aware of the antics. He should not see some people. He should not give some people benefit of the doubt, because they are inherently corrupt. He was saying that those who should be punished are those who willfully decide to make this kind of mistakes.
But you are not even talking of 2 projects. You are talking, going by his own figure, 185
It can't be human error now. This can't be human error. It's deliberate.
It's deliberate.
It's deliberate.
Must be deliberate. And those practices, I don't know what we are doing towards it now. Is this something that's still next year we'll still find some of those projects that find
I can bet that these things will happen again, because we do not punish people. We assume that it's just an error. We allow them get away. The civil servants, these civil servants are so evil. Some of them would rather die than not steal. They would rather die than not steal. They are comfortable, but it's not enough.
No,
they still have to steal.
Is that not why we have people who are on trial now with 69 filling stations, 200 houses?
One individual.
One individual, a civil servant.
ICPC discovered that in spite of the fact that government came up with the idea of TSA, that there were still dozens of illegal accounts opened by bypassing the TSA in this same country, this ICPC. So the question to ask is, okay, those people that they discovered opened those illegal accounts in the ministries, where are they now? Because they should be cooling their heels in prison.
Honestly.
But do we do that? How often do we punish people who steal from the Commonwealth so brazenly like this, so consciencelessly? We've got to make it a habit. If we don't punish them, they will keep doing it. They will not see anything wrong in doing these things.
And the budget that you are even looking for money to finance.
And
we don't
look at even all the MDAs where you even have people doing whatever they want. I mean, go through some of these cases that are on now. You find the chairman of a particular agency on trial for taking so amount, and in billions. You find civil servants having aided and abetted who are on trial, and then we are still saying it is error. I don't know when we are going to end this error.
These are deliberate.
They are quite deliberate. When we are going to end this error, I do not know, because if this has been happening, Yar'Adua refused to sign the budget.
Those non-TSA accounts, ministries opening accounts.
Buhari came and complained about the same thing.
Should be under prosecution now.
Yes.
There's so many people.
So those are deliberate acts. They are not. You can't say those ones are errors. They knew that. Look, all accounts held by the ministries, agencies, and department must be under the TSA. Yes, so it's the CBN that will be the custodian of their funds.
All the funds.
But people are still, in spite of that, in connivance with the banks, are going ahead to open accounts separately from the TSA. And we think that is that this thing is not deliberate. Look at the case of one account that was opened in the oil ministry before the death of the late chief of staff, and they asked him, yes, they said they found the money in dollars. They found the so amount of money, some amount of money in dollars in that illegal account. So they asked him, and he said it was the president that gave the go ahead, but he did not come with the memo by the president authorizing that account be open. He did not come with it. Of course, they asked. So everything that is being done to ensure that we defeat corruption, people will deliberately bypass it. Deliberately, that is how they live. They do not think that it makes sense to make money genuinely. They think that they must steal from the rest of us for them to be happy. I mean, it's just terrible. Just terrible.
When you look at the number of people, the number of civil servants mentioned the corruption cases and what you said earlier, and you will understand that that's why we have all these directors, big palm secretaries. Their lifestyle is not commensurate with what they earn.
Well, it's becoming very obvious now that the civil service is somewhere that needs attention. I've always said it. it's not such a popular position, but we have to look at the civil service. People say that employment by government into civil service is supposed to be a social policy, sort of, that government must provide employment. Whether those people have things they are doing or not, they must be there. And despite the fact that we spend so much on them in terms of salaries and emoluments, this is what we still get. Because if you ask me, for instance, we've all been talking about our refineries not working. Do we still have workers there or not? Are they getting paid or not?
They are getting paid for doing nothing.
And
their salaries are extortionate in nature. Huge salary. Yes,
and then
huge salary for doing nothing.
So what? So some of these are the things we need to begin to look at, so that we can even account for what each person is doing. Because if you need to prepare a budget and you have about 20, 30 people doing it in a particular, who do you pick? Who do you begin to look at? But when these things are streamlined properly, so you can begin to know where these errors, as called by Ben Akabueze, can be traced to. You can begin to look at it. Okay, you committed this in this. But where
if you have a private company that has not been generating profits for years, would you rather keep the staff?
You won't.
That's what we have with the refineries.
Yes.
Refineries are not refining a drop of crude oil, but they are earning some of the fattest salaries that anybody can think about.
I have anti-corruption crusader Larry Surat joining us. Thank you for joining us, Larry.
Yes, good afternoon. How are you, Ayo?
Yes,
thanks
sir.
for having.
Very well. Now, looking at this finding by the chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, that's saying that 257 projects amounting to over 20 billion naira were duplicated in 2021 budgets. Don't you find this worrisome? Year in, year out, you begin to see things like this in our budgets. Yes, we don't have money to finance these budgets.
Well, thank you. I think our surprises are just coming from the fact that it is the first time that it is being said by the anti-corruption agency. But other than that, it is the usual practice of the civil servant. And that is where you get the whole proceeds of crime that are associated from the civil servants from. It is the whole essence of just changing our annual budget. It's just about changing the year on it. If you're able to do a detailed analysis or review of the budgets, and I think the National Assembly has actually said more than this, on those particular budget of regurgitation of the previous year, all the items. And that is why you will see that even in the presidential villa, including in the presidential villa, you will see the year in, year out, there are provisions to either buy the same set of cutleries that were bought last year, as if we all don't use the same thing in our homes. Things that can be used for 3-4 years are bought every year in the budget, according to the budget, are provided for every year in the budget. So with this one that ICPC just came out to identify after the 2021 budget was passed as far back as last year, 2020. So we're just hearing at this time that there are duplications in the 2021 budget when the 2022 budget is about to also be passed. Is really not news for some of us, especially that have been monitoring the development with regards to budget. The budget provision for civil servants is nothing other than just not about development, and that is why you will always want to wonder and ask yourself, how do we have budget every year? Trillions are budgeted, but you can't in any way point at the projects that are implemented from this budget, except for the recurrent expenditure of payment of salaries. And it goes like that, recyclable for the civil servants and also the government. It is as bad as not only that the budgets are duplicated, not only that the allocations or some of the projects are phantom projects. You know, that is the irony of it. The budgets that are budgeted for, or items that were budgeted for in 2020, are budgeted for afresh in 2021. So even where 90% of the budgets were completed in 2020, it is coming as a fresh budget in 2021. So some of them, you will see the same item. They would not even be implemented. Mind you, after that, they will still go to the process of compromising the project that not even more than 30% or less than 50% of the implementation will be concluded. So the budget process, and it is unfortunate, which is where we have not focused very serious attention of monitoring. And thank God you can see what is coming out even with the zonal intervention project and constituency project. The few and little that were monitored by some of the civil society and media organizations have reflected to so much that many of them are just the sharing opportunity. That is why it was very easy for some of us, the parliamentarians, to insert some budgets that are not to be implemented in under some of the ministries. And by the end of the year, those projects are allocated, or the funds are just returned back to some of the parliamentarians. So it's a cycle that you have some of the parliamentarians having their so-called constituency projects that are not implemented in the budget or under the budget line of some of the ministries. So the moment you're doing that, you also give the ministries and civil servants the opportunity to also take home some of their own largesse without any modicum
national
of authority to challenge them.
So, do you agree that these duplications were largely the result of human error? As
no, forget about it. Whoever is saying there's human error is just an enemy to Nigeria. This is not just about 2021 budget. This is about the perennial, perpetual activities of the the major, I would say not just individuals, but also the ministries that are in charge of the budget. So it is not just about individuals. It's about almost all the ministries, particularly, majorly, all the ministries are guilty of this. All the civil servants that are connected. And these are not the usual small civil servants. These are civil servants from the rank of deputy assistant director upward. Look, the truth of it is that, particularly on these ones, these are not about politicians. These ones are not, the politicians are just about the contracts that are already awarded. They get their share of that one. They bring the contracts, they also bring the contractor. Sometimes they get the contract approved, they bring the contractor. These ones that you have duplicated are the ones that are perpetrated by the civil servants. It is not just for 2021. There's nothing that is called human error. These are usually deliberate acts that are perfected by the civil servant, and sometimes in connivance and conspiracy with the parliamentarians to get the budget, and that is why it was passed. So, what is the human error? So, the human error is from the 2021 preparation by civil servants, and the human error also escaped, the pigeon high with all the so-called monitoring and scrutiny of the National Assembly, for which the parliamentary session is usually suspended only for the purpose of scrutinizing ministry by ministry budget and having them approved. There's the human error that escaped all that process till the final stage that it was signed by the president. No, even if you tell that to the Marine, they will reject it.
What do you suggest going forward that we should do? Are there specifics that we can use in tackling this?
No, it is important that once there is no sanction, people are likely to continue not only perpetuating this level of crime against the system. You see, people are not even in any way concerned about the implication of their actions to the country or to the people anymore. They don't care if we don't even have the resources to fund the budget and that we borrow to do that. It is not a problem to them. They're not bothered about the implications, and once there is no sanction, then there will be a lot of offenses that would actually come on board. And that is why it could still be that people will be talking about human error. Who cares? Even if it is human error, there's nothing in the provision of the law that says if this is committed, you can excuse yourself on human error. People involved, and that is where we're seriously having challenges in the country. We are able to find sentimental excuse for people who are found even with their hands in the cookie jar. The people who are involved either deliberately or otherwise, the people who are connected, the people who even made the human error should be sanctioned appropriately according to the law, which would then amount to deterrence for many of them. The second thing is that as long as we are not able to effectively implement our Bankers Asset Declaration Act that the new EFCC chairman promised us, and we should hold him by that, promised that he was going to implement, we're not going to get financial crimes resolved in this country. We must beam light effectively on not just our bankers, but the banking system. So the cyber crime that you have many of the cyber criminals, Yahoo boys, perpetuating, and they continue on a daily basis.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your contribution today, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Looking forward to attend your roundtable one of these days on these corrupt cases. I know you have a special case study that you do on them. Thank you so much.
Yes, no problem.
Larry Suraj is right there.
I think I agree with him that we can't look at this and call it human error. Then why did it take this long?
Isolated one.
Because this budget cycle has ended.
It has.
It will end by the end of December. And when we are in December.
Yes,
so we are just discovering this now. No, that's not right.